Do emotions influence our performance? Yes, in a very big way. And there are two that come across very frequently at work. The interesting part is not everybody is equipped to distinguish between which is which. I'm talking about anxiety and excitement. Are you anxious or are you excited? It's fascinating when you find yourself in some high-stakes situations, whether it's walking into a critical decision-making opportunity, presenting to the board perhaps, or your investors, or dealing with conflict with a colleague that is important to resolve. You feel your heart racing, your breathing perhaps shallow, and possibly your palms sweating. How do you interpret this? Is this anxiety? Or is it excitement? Now, the interesting thing is these two emotions are tied by similar experiences of anticipation, perhaps some uncertainty, and not knowing what the outcome may be. These two emotions share these physiological responses, what happens in your body, but also it really is contingent on what you are thinking and how you interpret those emotions that dictates how you will deal and maximize the opportunity that is in front of you. When you learn to distinguish between anxiety versus excitement, it can benefit you in tricking your brain. So for example, a presentation that definitely is high stakes and you're not sure how the board is going to respond. But it also means that you may pleasantly surprise them with what is possible. You have done a lot of hard work and yes, the stakes are high, but you're prepared. So some level of anxiety. If there was no anxiety, I would be really concerned. And the reason I say that to everybody in coaching is the relationship between anxiety and performance is actually an inverted U. If you have no anxiety, it possibly means you don't care about the outcomes. So some level of those feelings means you care enough, you care about what comes out of that situation. But if you feel too much anxiety, it actually debilitates you from performing to the best of your ability. So some anxiety is good, some optimal level, but no anxiety, I don't care. I have done this a gazillion times, I can do this again. It may reduce the amount of the quality or how you show up, the intention. But if you don't want it to go too far, where it debilitates you from performing to the best of your ability. At the same time, where I started off, which is the distinction between anxiety and excitement, it's a question that you can ask yourself before you walk into that high-stakes situation. If you were to reframe that presentation before you walk into the room to say, you know what, I'm really excited. And yes, my heart rate is up and my breathing is shallow and my palms are sweaty. But you know what? That's because I really care about what's going to come out of the situation and I'm going to present my best foot forward. So you leverage your emotions to enhance your performance. So it goes a really long way when you look at the context, you clearly identify whether it's anxiety or excitement. You may purposefully try to reframe the experience so that you can put your best foot forward. And also, if ever in doubt, remembering that it's a sign that you care about the outcome. Let's talk about one specific example where differentiating between these emotions accurately is incredibly important. That example would be anytime you're making high-stakes decisions. If you interpret the emotion that you're feeling as anxiety, that has a certain set of influences on how you will approach the decision-making process, as compared to if you were to interpret the same emotion or the feelings, the physiological feelings, as excitement. If the primary emotion you're feeling is anxiety, it can significantly impact your decision-making in 4 specific ways. First, anxiety often makes us more risk-averse, which means that it enhances our perception of the stakes and perhaps different options that are in front of us, almost encouraging us to choose the safest option because we have an enhanced fear of failure. The important distinction here is it's not a true evaluation or that is based on risk assessment. It is driven by this feeling of anxiety that makes you inclined to choose the safest option. And even though you may benefit by reducing the risk of failure, you may be stunting the growth or innovation that is possible by taking that, what you believe when you're feeling anxious, as the more risky option. The second impact is because it's a negative affect emotion, it creates a bias in our mind. So we are much more inclined to focus on what may not work out, the negative outcomes. The second impact is it can cause a negative bias in you, where you disproportionately focus on all the possible downsides of making a decision. Sometimes, anxiety can lead you to procrastinate where you don't make the decision at all. And in other cases, you may choose the safest option, as I've said before, but the idea is the negative bias disallows you to take risks that can have great open possibilities. In today's world that is volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous, if you let anxiety be the primary emotion when you're making decisions, you will never have enough information that allows you or makes you feel confident enough to move forward. If you work from that emotion, that uncertainty can really be a significant hurdle in both your success and your organization's success. The third impact is in how anxiety can reduce your cognitive flexibility. That means how open you are to different ideas and pros and cons of a certain decision. Usually, people are not making high-stakes decisions in isolation, they're working with a team. And when anxiety lowers your focus such that you become inflexible and rigid about your opinions and not welcome the feedback or information that other people may be sharing with you, you run the risk of not only not making the most informed decision, but also coming across as someone who is not collaborative and doesn't value the input of other people. It's quite possible people will stop sharing that input, but also if they believe they did not contribute to that decision, they will not have the same ownership of the outcomes and the impact of the decision that you make. And the last piece is, it can impair your judgment. Anxiety often leads to overthinking, second guessing, procrastinating, and perhaps making less than optimal decisions. With that piece of your judgment being impaired and going in having a negative bias and being inflexible to hear the input from other people around you, all of these factors really put a significantly higher risk, given that you're also more risk averse now, increases the actual risk of making a poor decision or not making a decision at all. Those are the pieces if you determine that the feeling or the emotion that you're experiencing is anxiety. Now, what happens when it's excitement? Now, excitement also has to be balanced. Too much excitement, it's a positive affect emotion, can create a positive bias in you, where you over-expect all the positive outcomes that can come out of that decision. That can make you less considerate of all the risks involved. So instead of being risk averse, you become pro-risk. You are emboldened to think, you know what, let's try. What is possible? Let's explore the possibilities. Even though it opens you up to leveraging and reacting or responding to the different uncertainties of the environment, that positive bias can also have its negative impact, where you haven't really considered or given the due importance to the criticisms or the cons that your peers may have brought to you. On the positive side, excitement can increase your creativity and make you much more flexible in terms of adding that cognitive agility, where you are experiencing a greater ease in not just accepting other people's ideas, but also pivoting as you need to, which is so critical in the dynamic environments in which our leaders work right now. So excitement can have its functions. Anxiety has influence. What is the best emotion to walk into as you make high stakes decisions? Research on emotional intelligence has shown that being in a somber mood, which is not anxious and not hyper excited, is a wonderful ability to actually get you in the mood that optimally helps you pay attention to all the aspects in a comprehensive way and a non-biased way. So what I mean by that is you want to manage your emotions. If you're feeling anxious, reduce that anxiety. You can perhaps reframe it as excitement. If you're feeling too excited, you may want to tone it down. Maybe this is not the right moment to be making that decision. Or if you have really worked on your emotional intelligence skills, train yourself to get into that somber mood, because this is the time. The meeting has been set, all the key stakeholders are in the room. You don't have the luxury to not meet with them to make that decision. Getting in the right emotional or mood so that it is aligned with the task at hand. That is part of what it means to be emotionally intelligent. 2 things besides emotional intelligence that you can do to ensure that you make the most optimal decision. 1 is rely on frameworks rather than just your gut instinct. Combination of and there are so many decision-making frameworks out there, but balancing that thoughtful analytical approach with your emotions and your gut feeling and all the instinct that you have gained from your past experience, and that wisdom that comes at the intersection of both the analytical piece and the emotional piece, can better equip you to make a decision that is thoughtful. The other piece is having trusted advisors around. Hopefully this is not a brand new group you've never worked with, you don't know these people, you can't trust the quality of the data or inputs that they've brought in. Instead, most likely you know that these individuals are capable, can be trusted, and have done their due diligence in bringing forward recommendations that are grounded in substantive data points, both the qualitative or the analytical pieces and the emotional pieces. When you have a group of people that you can rely on as engaged in a consultative decision-making process, you continue to practice cognitive flexibility. You trust that collectively you will address all the different aspects that should be considered. That should give you much greater confidence in the decision that you make. Having said that, individuals are different, contexts are different. Rely on how you've made high-stakes decisions in the past. This can't be understated. There is a wisdom within you. This is not the first possible high-stakes decisions that you're making. If you can borrow from your past self and extract the wisdom of what worked, what did you learn if it didn't work out, what are different factors that help you make comprehensively sound decisions, you leverage that and you build on that. And the fact that you're making this decision ideally with consideration and consultation from your key stakeholders, there is not just your thinking and insights, there is the wisdom of the group, which is greater than one or individuals by themselves. You can borrow from that confidence that boosts your ability to make effective decisions. I hope this example demonstrated to you how you can bring a combination of intellect and emotion to really create optimal performance. Doesn't matter whether it's a high-stake decision situation or a presentation or managing conflict with a stakeholder or a colleague that is important for you to resolve. If you found value in this, please like and subscribe to my channel, and I look forward to continuing to share more content with you. Thanks for watching.